Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. My name is Henny and I'll be taking you through the case study for the Engage app, and afterwards I'll be answering a few interview questions. Right, let's begin. Now this started when I had a conversation with a friend where he started considering getting engaged, but he was a little bit concerned because he had no idea where to where to start looking, who to turn to, and what was available, and what did he need to look for. Now, this case study was completed while I was doing my Career Foundry course, and the process that was used during this case study was the design thinking process, which places the user front and center and focuses on their needs. Now, the challenge that I had was, how could I help the user easily understand the four C's of diamonds, meaning understanding key information. For example, the cut, clarity, color, and carat. Also, how can I help the user pick a suitable expert according to their needs? And then, last but not least, how can I help the user to view and select the right ring near where he lives, where he is, that he can look and potentially find for what he is looking for. Now, during the discovery phase, I had a look at two of currently big hitters in the field. One of them are Tiffany and Co. That has been around for more than 100 years. And what was really interesting during this competitive analysis was, even though they had a very well put together website, Tiffany and Co. didn't have an application at all. And you could email an expert, but an expert wasn't necessarily directly available. With JamesAllen.com, James Allen, that's been in the market now for 14 years. They're a little bit more tech savvy, and they actually do have an app available, but some of the app suffered really from functionality. Uh, the features left very much to desire. For example, to the AR reality feature, it was really clunky, and the app was prone to crashing. Something that was also noted in the app was that there was very limited rings that you could choose from, and you couldn't really get into contact with an expert to ask a question. Now, once this was finished, I started focusing on user survey. Now, before I did the interview, I wanted to get a better feel of what users would potentially look for. So, doing a user survey, I focus on the user's attitude towards information that is available online and offline, to verify the age demographic that would use the app, and number three, to identify additional features that users would prefer seeing in the app besides Ring. Now, the three men that I did interviews with were either already engaged or married, because they already took the journey. And what better way to learn from than people who have completed the journey already? Now, from the user survey, interesting enough, was 50% of people still went to their parents or their partner for information, and which was fascinating, because it really shows that people, even though we live in a digital age, they still crave the personal and trusted uh, source. Only 17% turned to the internet to read about information. I was really fascinated and a little bit shocked by this, and the age was confirmed that I thought originally. Some of the key features that they would also prefer is to be able to see direct messaging and having a review system in place. Now, once that was completed, I used affinity mapping, which I created 4 categories. And what I found was one of the pain points was that participants would visit different websites, but they could not find all the information in one place. And this really frustrated some of the users. Users would also prefer a video and pictures when a concept was being explained, as some users are more audio and visual when learning. They would prefer to be able to use different filters according to ring styles, price, or sizes. And from there, it was now time to create the user personas. Now, 2 users personas was created. Number one, you had Johan, the classic by the numbers guy who first did his research, had all the facts and figures in place before making a calculated uh, purchase or a decision. And then you had Mark, the up for anything type of guy who would try anything once. Now, user flows was created where uh, where uh, potential pain points and potential emotions was identified while they were trying to achieve their main goals. For Yuan, the by the numbers guy, would be to do his research, first get all the information that he needs, then potentially see what is available near him. And of course, once you've done research and you have questions, then to be able to contact an expert according to your needs and be able to either message them or set an appointment. Now, once this was completed, I made an information architecture, and this was just to test if my sections and subsections made logical sense, and I had participants uh, test this using a card sorting exercise. Now, some key information that did come back was that the sections would be better identified with different wording, as well as moving the question and answers to the expert page made more sense, and this was really valuable feedback. Now, once this was done, I then started sketching low fidelity user frames. Once I completed that, I moved over to mid fidelity, and then I moved to a high fidelity prototype to be completed, and this would be used for user testing. Now, I mainly focused on onboarding, creating a home screen, and making the 3 features. Now, during the user testing, because we were in lockdown, this did create a new interesting dynamic, because instead of being able to test in person, I was only able to meet with 2 users to do in-person testing and 4 online user testing. So this really did create a new setting. Now, the goal here for user testing was to test the functionality and the usability of the app while the users were completing the 3 main task flows. The objectives were to view a cut section, to select an expert according to their needs, and message to them, and to save an image of specific rings. Now, I did ask one female participant here, just out of curiosity, to see if logically a ringer would see something different. Now, the test reports, the information that I got back was valuable, as it really showed uh, key information, getting both positive and negative feedback back from participants. And this was really useful, as affinity mapping was used again to put them in different categories. Now, from here, I used the rainbow sheet to list 25 issues and to identify 5 key issues. One of them was a very big functionality issues of a section that was not linked well. One of the suggestions that came back, which was really useful, was having a more direct link in being able to direct the expert directly from the educational section, which was really useful as this was not something that was originally considered. Once this was done, I started designing the language system. Now, the language system here was the focus here was to have a look at using typography and color that is familiar but also professional. The three colors that I decided on was royal blue, turquoise, as well as gray. These colors were chosen as royal blue represents serenity and trust. And in a journey like this, which is already pretty stressful because you are looking for that perfect ring for your bride, to be able to have serenity and trust really goes a long way, whereas turquoise represents communication, and this is a key element that Engage the app holds dear, and so on. You want professional, but also this is a friend. This is like family helping you. Uh, Although, as I've mentioned, this was a new journey, what I really wanted to do was having a form of familiarity in the way that the images was presented using, for example, carousel techniques across different genres uh, that has recently become very popular that was being used. Now, one of the biggest challenge here was to represent key information without information overload for the user. So I really focus on keeping information to a minimal while giving key information. So just giving enough, but without overloading. Now, what went well during this case study was the user testing. This was something that I really enjoyed, and it also showed me the different trail of thought of when users were completing the task at hand. It also gave me real user insights in a user problem that could that happened as at that moment, and this is not something that you could see in a competitor's analysis. Another thing that I also enjoyed was the card sorting exercise. This was really fascinating to see the different connections that the participants made, and that was also useful to see some of my original ideas being vindicated. Something that didn't go too well was refining the UI. Before the case study, I had very limited UI experience, so during the mid-level and high fidelity wireframes iterations, it was way more challenging as I was being open to new guidelines, and I had to do a lot more iterations to improve my proficiency first in XD and then in Figma. So this also took a lot more time than I originally planned for. What I did learn was that number one, a well-defined problem statement is so paramount, so crucial for a case study. If you have a well defined problem statement, then it makes what follows so much easier. Something else that I also learned was during user interviews and user testing that my questions were a little bit more generic instead of being more specific, and this is something that you practice by having better defined interview questions and user survey, the information that you get back is also so much more precise. Keeping the user problem front and center is very useful when looking as your case study progress to see if your main features align with your problem statements. And this is something that I really will not forget, is doing multiple iterations at low and mid fidelity stage wireframes. Doing multiple iterations really helps with the initial design phase, as this saves so much time down the line, and it also creates such a more dynamic design because you see so much better uh, choices and design choices. Combining this with communicating with fellow designers and being open for feedback creates a way more engaging design. I have given feedback in the past about designs. I think having a little bit more work experience really does help you to carve giving feedback a little bit better, because nobody really teaches you how to do it. At the beginning, I was way more direct with uh, this something's not right here. Potentially, I don't think this is going to this doesn't look good. But whereas now it has come with a little bit more of a constructive structure, giving feedback, but not just negative feedback, but also giving a potential solution to it with a practical example. Now, not to say that they should take my advice, but the practical example is there for the person, that you can automatically see if they understand what you are saying, because the practical example, if they don't understand this, then this can also really help, because it does not help you just give feedback, but they don't understand it because nobody learns. Giving feedback is about improvement. Alright. People that I've worked with in the past and people that I currently work with generally say I am a very open and welcoming person. I do not shy away from hard work. I'm always available to help if you have a problem with something. But they've also mentioned that sometimes I can become a little bit focused, meaning that if I'm giving a task or I'm really busy, that I do zone, and then the people around me, I do kind of, uh, it's like a bubble. So they would actually have to tap me on my shoulders, even though I do not have earphones or something in my ears, because I'm so focused. I was working as a consultant for a very, very well known client in the solar industry. And within the company, there was a lot of different uh, sections, departments, as well as the company that I was working for. Now, understanding how to communicate with the different uh, departments was critical, because you had a lot of time people that did not like one another, and this played a key role in the one day one of their projects was outside a small city in South Africa, and it is a solar farm, and I got contacted asking I should go. And when I arrived there, there was a little bit more than 100 people that was very angry because they did not receive their money, and they were threatening on damaging thousands of euros. I'm talking hundreds of thousands of euros damage to the solar farm, causing damage to the property. And luckily enough, when I arrived, some of the people I had worked with uh, for 4 or 5 months, and one of them was William, that was a team leader. And I went to William, and how I resolved this was being having an open conversation with him, and also being honest with him, explaining to him that I understand why they are mad, and if they give me the opportunity, if they give me the space and just a bit of time to find out what's going on, instead of them just getting no answers, I'm there to help them solve the problem. And they were kind enough to grant me time. I was able to communicate within the different departments with the different personalities to get an answer, but not just get an answer. Once again, like I mentioned with the feedback, it was to give feedback, but also practical example. And I gave feedback, but I also gave a potential solution. And the solution was enough for the 100 people to leave the site without causing any damage. And we agreed upon that the next 2 days from then, I would meet with them in town if there was any other concerns. And because I was diligent in my work previously, I I had gained enough respect between the people that they gave me the space for this. And this was really, really a useful moment. One of the questions that I would have would be for the interviewer is the management structure. Is it a horizontal structure, meaning everybody's on the same level, or is it more a vertical structure? Because that also gives you an idea of how communication potentially can happen. Another question that I would have is if they can uh, give me an example of potentially, doesn't have to be like a big problem that they potentially had with either the product that they're currently working on or a client. Uh, how did the team react to this, and did they find a solution to this, and what did they do? Because this would give great insight in the dynamics of the team, as well as